So you like to sketch but don't have a ton of time? Traditional drawing, even location sketching, can take quite a while. But I'll show you how to do quick captures of the world around you in as little as 15 minutes a day. Welcome to Urban Sketching in 15 minutes a day. I'm Suma CM. I'll share my tips for materials and how to use them efficiently. I'll show you how to use your commute, the time before meetings, your lunchtime, even your downtime to sketch. And I'll show you how to think about breaking your scenes down so you don't waste time figuring out what to sketch. You'll come away knowing how to fit this hobby into the spaces of your life. I'm not necessarily a natural artist, but practicing has made a huge difference. A few years ago, I got involved with the Urban Sketchers movement. That's when I made sketching a daily habit and I greatly improved. I know the same will happen for you if you fit sketching for even a few minutes a day into your life. Let's get sketching. For me, sketching is a way to document my life. It's like a visual journal that really captures the small moments of my everyday. Now, I totally understand that you might say you just don't have the time to sketch, but I'm here to show you that sketching can be incorporated into a busy life, and it doesn't have to take a lot of time. I'll start this lesson by sharing a brief overview of how I approach urban sketching. It's based on really capturing what I see in a short amount of time. This technique makes it really accessible even if you have a busy schedule. I'll go over the materials I use for this kind of sketching, and you'll see how easy it is to carry them along with you every day. Last, I'll show you some exercises to increase your comfort with these materials. That's really important because I'd like everyone to be able to sketch quickly and confidently when they're out and about. Typically, urban sketches are done on location. So instead of drawing from your head, you're drawing what you see. Here are 3 small sketches that I did at a park near my house. I was on a bike ride and I was able to get a landscape, some birds, and even some people in a very short amount of time. This whole sketch took me just about 30 minutes to do, so really easy to do even when I was going on a bike ride. While everyone uses different materials, pen and watercolor are really my tools of choice because they're portable and I can use them very spontaneously. Now, although they can be used to create some very elaborate and detailed work, it's really possible to make sketches that are fast and loose. So here's a sketch I did of Navy Pier, which is a popular attraction in Chicago in the US. And as you can see, I was able to draw really quick and loose, and I got in the carousel, the tilt-a-whirl, even the wheel in the background, and was even able to add some color to highlight the sketch. My style is really quick, it's gestural, and it's very loose. So I would say it's a little bit drawing, a little bit journaling, and a whole lot of fun. Even if the sketch isn't completely finished, it's okay, because I find it's more fun for people looking at the work. They have to fill in what's not really drawn out or colored in detail. The time limits really make me draw faster. I have to put something down, and often it's really more interesting than what I might draw when I have more time. Here's a sketch that I did at Mystic, Connecticut, and as you'll see here, I didn't color in everything. I didn't color in the sea, I didn't color in the people, but it's pretty obvious that that's what you're looking at, just some people looking at this boat, and I colored in the boat because I wanted that to be the focus. Again, didn't take me a long time, was really just waiting for a lunch reservation and was able to do this in that amount of time. So the key to doing these fun and impromptu sketches is to have your materials handy. So let's go over some of my favorite tools. I'm a pretty impatient person, and sometimes I only have a few minutes to sketch, so I prefer easy materials that don't take a lot of time or space to set up or clean up. Now, like other sketchers, I buy a ton of art supplies, but I actually find that my go-to kit is pretty inexpensive and pretty small. So I use a zippered pouch. It's about 6 by 8, so it's really easy to carry around. And in it, I'll have a waterproof fine liner. This one's a Sharpie pen. Makes a nice fine line, as you can see. And a thicker felt tip pen. This one's a Pitt artist pen with a brush tip. There's many others like these, but this is an example. And as you can see, I can make actually both thick and thin lines with it, which is really nice. I also carry a small mixed media sketchbook. There are many options here. I usually go around 5 by 8. I sometimes will carry a 3 by 5. This one would actually fit in my pouch, but I find that if it's too small, it's actually a little bit harder to draw, so I would suggest a larger one. But whatever is portable to carry, and there's many options for these mixed media or watercolor sketchbooks. So for color, I like to have a compact watercolor set. This one's a Winsor & Newton Cotman Sketchers Pocket Box, but there's many others like this as well. And to add color to my page, I use a water brush. And the water is right inside the barrel, so no carrying around extra water, which is really nice. This is a Pentel Aquash in large, which makes a really nice stroke here because it has a large tip, as you can see. I also carry some paper towels to wipe off my brush. Some people use a sponge or even a sweatband, something you might use when playing sports, but I tend to run out the door, so paper towels are what I have in hand, so they're handy and I'll use them. If you sketch more and more, you might want to invest in some more tools. One thing I often carry around actually is a sawed-off brush. This is actually a regular brush. It's a 1/2 inch flat. Sometimes it gives me nicer marks when I'm doing some wider expanses than my water brush, so I'll carry that around. Even more custom stuff would be maybe a fountain pen. This has extra fine nib, very kind of interesting line weight that I can achieve with this. Here's a travel brush, and you can put it right into the barrel, which is nice. And I actually put custom pan colors in my palette. So this is a very similar palette to the one I showed before, but I've actually squeezed out colors from tubes. In the materials list, you'll find a list of the colors that I use in mine. I change them up a lot. It's something that I play around with. They're nice to have, but you don't have to have them. They do require a little more time to maintain and put away, so they really aren't necessary for now. Use what you have and what you're comfortable with to sketch. So to be able to draw really quickly, it's important to get familiar with your materials. So I like to play with them and know how to use them. The less you're focused on your tools, the more you can really concentrate on drawing whenever you have a few minutes free. So let's see what this small kit can do. So I like to draw very gesturally, and I draw generally with my hand or my arm, so not my fingers. What I mean is I try to move my arm when I'm sketching. So I draw really sweeping lines. So even though I'm drawing with a small pen and a fairly small pad of paper, I try to get as much value out of each line as I can. I like to pretend each line costs money. So if I make the minimal number of lines, I'll be done really quickly too. So I like to get the most out of my lines. So practice making different lines and marks. Here I'll kind of show you what I can do in terms of scribbling. So this is my fine liner, and I can use this to really kind of very quickly put in gestural marks. So here is what I might do if I'm doing, say, trees in the distance. So I'll use some shorthand here, right? So making different marks. I might kind of use it to stipple or make dots, especially if I'm maybe drawing a beach and sand. You can also do some fine lines. This is something that I might use if I'm shading maybe a background or something like that. And if I'm using the thicker brush, I can actually get some really dark shadow shapes in and use it to fill in shapes very easily there. So you'll see how easily I can cover a lot of ground. So I'm going to put down a little bit of a sketch here and show you how the watercolor works with the water brush. So let's say we have a little bit of tree shapes in there and maybe some mountain shapes in there. So with my watercolor set, I can add some color with my water brush. This is very convenient, again, because I'm on location when I'm sketching, right? So I don't have the hassle of the extra container. It can take some time to get used to, though. So I'm going to take some color, wipe it off on the paper towel, squeeze it a little bit to get the water out there, and that's how when it runs clear, I know that I can change color. So I can make some simple color mixes here by putting down a little bit of color, maybe adding another color. I usually try not to add more than about 2 colors, just so it doesn't get muddy. Sometimes it can look a little muddy or flat. And so I'm not squeezing too much yet on the barrel, but if it gets a little dry, then I'll squeeze a little bit more and get a nice bit of water going there. So you'll see how that flows very nicely. And I can ease up on how much I push the barrel and get water in, which is really nice for controlling how much water I have there. One thing I try to do is I try not to scrub the brush on the page, and you'll see that because it's a water brush, it will dilute as I scrub. So one thing I really try not to do is kind of make these flat expanses of color, and instead what I like to do is dab and sort of keep a little bit of white space in the middle, and that adds sparkle and really kind of enlivens the sketch. So I like to leave that white. So if I'm doing, say the sky in this imaginary landscape here, again, I'll kind of dab a little bit. I'll use the texture of the paper to my advantage because it'll leave some of that white sparkle for me, which is really nice. So this is how I would kind of go in and maybe just put a little bit of color on there. Again, wiping off in between colors and then picking up maybe a new color. Sometimes I'll go right to the page, sometimes I'll kind of make a puddle right here on my palette. And if I make a puddle on my palette, one thing I can do, of course, is use that other brush that I showed you, the flat brush, and I can pick up some of that color if I want to. If I want to do something like a dry brush technique without a lot of water, I can add more water to the puddle by squeezing. This is the nice thing about water brush. I can make a really nice puddle here without a water container and really get a nice wash out of that as well, nice flat wash. So maybe if I'm doing some shapes that are bigger, I can use that as well. So really kind of quick and easy, not a lot of cleanup as you can see. And that's how I would use my water brush in the field. If you've ever read a travel guidebook, you've probably seen itineraries like if you have 3 days in a city, if you have 5 days in a city, etc. Right? So I've always found them really useful because I can choose my activities based on how much time I have. So throughout this class, I'll be doing the same thing. Now sometimes it's hard to figure out what to sketch in the time you have. I'll show you what I did when I had a half hour to sketch, just a 15-minute break, and even 5 minutes. Before you move on to the next lesson, why don't you play with your materials and get used to how they flow on the paper. Then we'll be ready to head outside and start sketching. I'll show you how to look at a scene, figure out what you want to draw, and then get it down on paper.